Hello, my friends. Thursday. It's nice to see everyone again. Jack, good to see you. I had this thing, I was so tired before when we had dinner with the kids. I was like, I just want to go to bed. I just want to go to sleep. And then I told my fiance, like, well, I had the meditation tonight and it's actually really nice because then I get to sit, have a good time, chat with some friends, get some good energy, and then go to bed after that. So that's always a win. I'm happy that everyone is here. How's the week been? Anything fun happen? Anything meditation wise interesting? Hey Andres, sleep if for the week. Sleep is cool. I think sleep is one of the superpowers that I envy a lot of people. If there's anything I envy someone of, it is the ability to be able to go to sleep whenever they want. Some people just have that, it's a gift. It's really, it's probably the best thing you can do for a happy, healthy life. The most difficult thing is when you can't sleep. Hey, Catherine. Hope you had a good week. Yes, I did have I had a good week. Thank you. I've just been taking care of my foot. So not much walking. Actually, very little walking, but I can move around at least, and it's getting better. And I finished a new video. I just sat down and recorded, so I'm gonna release it soon. Could release it now. We'll see later. I'll do it. If you lack of sleep for some time, you will go mad. Yeah, I had when I got burnt out. I think I've talked about it sometime, but I had a pretty serious burnout where my mind just stopped working. And what happened was that I have 3 herniated discs in my neck from when I used to work as a dive guide. And I got compression in them, so three discs started bleeding out. And I couldn't feel my whole arm disappeared for a while, and then it was just like this thing here tingling, and that was 2008. And then they started coming back. So 5 years ago, I just woke up in the middle of the night and had all this pressure here. I was warm, like hot flashes, and I would sleep 2 to 4 hours every night. And that worked for about 9 months or so until I just completely crashed. My body just couldn't handle that. I'm really good with little sleep, but that little sleep for almost a year, it just completely broke me. I couldn't function after a while. My mind just stopped working, and it was actually a bit scary. But sleep is incredibly important. It's something that we should all be happy if we have. If we don't have it, then it's kind of like when you're sick. It's one of the only thing you want when you're sick is to get happy, and the only thing you want when you're tired, that is to sleep. So yeah, sleeping is nice. Hey, Christian. Jack, lack of magnesium is common sources of insomnia. So always have some. Yeah, I take magnesium. I had magnesium spray that I sprayed on my legs, and I thought I had restless leg syndrome, and I might have that to a certain degree, but I think it's part of the neck and the whole energy system moving. I've talked about this before as well. I get incredible pressure from this standing wave that comes up and down my spine, and it seems that where my herniated discs are, that kind of becomes a blockage, and then my body will shake. You'll see me sometimes when I'll do like this. And that's because it comes up and it kind of twitched me like that. And before, when I was meditating, like 10 years ago, 14, a long time ago, when I was meditating at the centers, I would sit and I would start vibrating. Like it would go from my belly, and it would go like this. I'd do like this, and sometimes I almost shaked off the stool that I was sitting on. It just had this like incredible shaking that went down and it went up, and it kind of went up like this, and it would go up, and people looked at me like I was possessed, and it felt like honestly, if that would have happened to me and I was not meditating, I would have been like, what the God, like this is insane. I had pressure and all this weird stuff, and but I do believe that that's part of the reason why I first of all had an easy time meditating and also developed my own system, because for me what people call energy, I call distortion, because it's very clear that when I'm in a state of no self or non-push, no centricness, like I call it, when I can't feel the self, this whole thing disappears. What people call kundalini and stuff, when you're actually in a state of not having a sense of self, you don't have any kundalini, like that stuff is gone. It just doesn't exist. So for me, that's kind of like my compass where I move, like, oh, wait a minute, if I do this, then I notice that I'm not having that pressure and I feel much better. I don't feel that I am here and I can enjoy being alive much more when that is gone. So that's kind of it's incredibly difficult in some ways, but it's also been, without that I simply wouldn't have had the kind of progression and ideas that I've come up with through meditation. That's mainly because of that. That's been like a thing that's helped me and made my life miserable at the same time. Does physical therapy help? I've been to physical therapy. I've had like the where you put yourself. When I had the first time, I was a dive guide in Palau, where the Pacific Ocean meets the Pacific and Philippine Ocean, where they meet. There's actually a line you can see where two body masses meet. There's two bodies of water, and they can have different salinities. I worked as a dive guide there, and basically I was the followed guide dives, and in front also. But when I was the follow guide, I was in the back, and I had lots of people in front of me, and I would lie like this. So I compressed my spine to the point where that just squeezed out, and then I had to go to Manila and stay there for 3 months to do physical therapy. And they put me in like a harness around my head and just pulled my neck out. I think it's called decompression. So they pull it out to let the spine have the spinal, what do you call that? The stuff in between the vertebra, to give that some space to kind of come back. And yeah, that was tough. Really, I always said that if I would have that kind of pain the rest of my life, I'd just commit suicide. I mean, it's terrible to say, but seriously, that kind of pain is difficult to understand. How tough life is with chronic pain. It's just unbearable. I mean, oh my goodness. Yeah, they gave me morphine and Valium and really strong stuff. They tried all kinds of things. Oh wait, did I say wrong? Morphine? I think it was morphine. Valium I remember, and some other really strong stuff. I was pretty drugged out for a few months there. But it got better, and I can function. I can feel it. And then last year, I don't know if I didn't do streams then, but then what happened was that it went out instead of this side. It now went out to this side, so I was actually off for like half a year last year because I had the same thing come back. And when you have that, the only thing you want is to get well again. You just want to sleep. You just want to be able to keep a conversation without having constant pain, blinding and making it difficult to talk, listen, interact with. It's just, yeah, it's terrible. And meditation definitely helps, but it's not like a silver bullet that's just going to fix it. Jack, I know what you mean. I struggled with migraines for many years. Migraines is interesting. Migraine seems to be, I'm not going to say quite easily, but I think migraine can really be helped by meditation, especially intensive meditation, because this whole energy system, like I talked about, when that gets moving, it seems that migraines many times is blockages, just stuff. And when you start meditating, that can come away. You probably heard the story of S.N. Goenka, who started the Goenka retreats, or they call them Vipassana retreats, which is kind of a strange name. Since Vipassana, it's like for all Buddhist meditation, it's called Vipassana, at least traditional Theravadan meditation. But he started it because he had crazy headaches, went and got morphine and all kinds of medicine to dull it, and then he went to meditation, and it healed him, he said. So basically, in my opinion, that's just what it is. I've had insane migraines when I was meditating. Like I literally thought that my brain is going to have an aneurysm because the pressure was just, it was scary. So yeah, meditation can definitely affect that. And you can also get migraines from meditation. I haven't really heard of anyone who started a permanent migraine, but most definitely, yeah, things can start moving and then they shift, and it's weird. Jack is saying, for me, it was a lack of magnesium. Oh, well, that's awesome. I wish it was that easy for me with my neck. Okay. Shall we sit? Or did anyone have anything they wanted to Satipana Vipassana? Yeah. Did anyone have a address? If you knew, it's something like that. I sometimes said like, I lived several lifetimes. I've done a lot of stuff. I traveled a lot. I went to the Ballet Academy. I've been in musicals. I played Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar. Studied economy. Was in sales. Earned a lot of money. Earned very little money. Had no money. Yeah, life is. I think the nice thing about doing many different things is that it makes it even clearer that the idea that you're gonna achieve something on the outside or have something happen that's gonna kind of get that feeling inside of you that I always want to do something else. I kind of like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. I mean, I can't even trick myself into believing anymore that if I can just have that happen. So I've said this before as well. I think there is a point to be had that sure, you should start meditating when you're young. I mean, there's nothing bad about that, but really going on a spiritual path and trying to deconstruct this sense of self and giving up the things that you think you should give up, you kind of need to have them first to understand that it doesn't really work the way we believe it works. You need to have them and lose them and get them and see how all of this stuff hangs together before you realize that, wait a minute, there's no way I will ever get enough on the outside or even inside to be fulfilled, will feel like a sense of happiness forever. That's just not going to happen. It's always going to be something else. Jack is saying, and here we are sitting in silence on cushion pillows. Yes, it's very nice. Let's start the sitting. For those of you new, we usually sit like this and chat a little bit beforehand, and then we do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method, which is a meditation technique. Well, it's more a should I call it a mindfulness exercise? Might be better. We say out aloud 5 things that we can see, 4 things we can feel, 3 things that we can hear, 2 things we can smell, and 1 thing that we can taste. And the whole idea is to come back to our senses. It's an incredibly good exercise to do if you're with someone who's having a panic attack or going through something really difficult and you want to ground them and make them calm down. I've done this actually with people when they were in panic attacks, and it works really well if they're willing to play that game. Sometimes they don't want to, and then yeah, it doesn't work. But it really brings you back to your senses, and we're trying to do what there's a saying, in the seen is only the seen, in the heard is only the heard, meaning that we don't try to interpret what we see. And I'm not saying interpret as in having the mind interpret. I mean interpret as in having a connection, emotional. I am here and that thing is over there and this feels a certain way. I want you to just see textures, shapes, colors, shadows, light, reflections, and just see what you're seeing, but without trying to make it into something. This is the kind of stuff you do it over and over, and then one day you're like, whoa, this makes sense. And then the next time you do it, I don't get it. I got it yesterday, but now I lost it somehow. And gradually you'll just start to understand and feel what I'm getting at. After that, today's Thursday. It is Thursday, right? Yeah, it's Thursday. I think so. Yeah, it must be. And that means we just sit together for 20 minutes and we have a question and answer after. Mondays we have guided meditations. So, 5 things that I can see. I can see a ring of ceramic. I can see lit squares. I can see an Elsa sticker. I see a monitor stand. I see gray fabric. And take your time to observe the things you're seeing or touching. And I said just see them without interpretation, but it's nice to have a sense of appreciation when you're looking. Or next thing we'll be doing is using our senses. So I feel this sofa. And when you feel that, appreciate how nice it is to feel stimuli on your senses. Feel how there's so many inputs on your skin, and it's just kind of tickling, and it's soft, and it's comfortable, it's cozy, and just feel that that's a nice sofa, and appreciate that the sofa is there and that you can feel it. So there's a sense of joy that we're trying to cultivate. It's not just see without, how should I say it? See without having an interpretation, this is good or this is bad. If anything, it's seeing and appreciating with a good mood. That's the best term I've been able to get to. But imagine that you have a good mood towards what you're doing, so that you're at peace and comfortable with what we're feeling. And I felt this sofa. It is very comfortable. I can feel the heat from my tea on both hands. I can feel the glossy feeling of the ceramic. I can feel the warmth of the tea in my mouth. I think there was 4. Let's do one more, I can't remember. I can feel my hand on my leg. And then we take 3 things that we can hear. I hear my computer fan. I hear someone driving by in a car that has a loud bass. I hear the cracking of the bones in my neck. Now we go down to senses that require a bit more focus to notice. So 2 things that we can smell. I can smell wool. I can smell mint. And finally, one thing that we can taste. I can taste orange. Now you can keep on sitting. If you're feeling good, then by all means. If you want, you're welcome to drink some tea with me, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask them and we can have a short discussion. Not a very long one today, but if anyone has anything they've got on their mind. I actually had something on my mind. I thought about this before. I mentioned that I have another video that I just made this week, and what I find interesting is that when I was a monk, I had to stay within the lines of Buddhism. I as a Buddhist monk, you can't really say things outside of what is taught in Buddhism and your tradition of Buddhism, because you're kind of a representative of that tradition, and thus, I mean, I don't blame them for that. This makes sense, kind of. You can't just have a bunch of people running around and talking random stuff. And there's a lot of people who come and ordain who might not be, well, let's just say they can have some strange ideas. So it makes sense for them to keep people within a box, kind of what they can talk about. And I realized it has actually taken me some time to let go of that and to talk about things that I believe in, and that I've kind of looked at and thought, okay, you know what, this doesn't make any sense when you do it like this. And I mentioned before how I have this pressure in my back from the herniated discs, and that just gives me a different perspective. And I did share it when I was a monk, but I was always like, oh, I shouldn't really be saying this because this goes against what we teach. And one of the things that what I made the video about is actually how helping others can create ego, or a stronger sense of self, which is something that goes completely against many Buddhist traditions, because they made the helping into the thing that kind of makes you holy. I heard someone say that the way you determine if someone is enlightened or not is how much they help others. And for me, that makes no sense whatsoever. That determines that you're a really good person and a really nice person, and that's an applaudable thing. But that has very little to do with your sense of self. You can have a huge sense of self that you get from helping others. And I think that if you're open to another perspective, that video will actually be quite insightful. It will give you a perspective that is not often talked about, but it'll make sense when you watch it. And again, I'm not saying don't be kind, don't help other people. What I'm saying is that you need to look at yourself and let go of the sense of self, because then you can really be unselfish and help others. And you don't help them because you need them to give something to you. Many people help others because they like the feeling they get when they've helped them, meaning that they don't help just for their sake. They're helping because they want to feel something. They want to feel that they've accomplished and help them. So there's a neediness from the person helping. So what I'll do is right after we finish this session, I'll post the video. And if you want to watch it, you're welcome to watch it. Let's see. Jack is saying, remember one of my first questions on the streams about the time that Buddha took sitting under the Bodhi tree. So how are we doing? Are we there yet? My question... no, we're not there yet, Jack. But we're getting closer, for sure. JVV, greetings, nice to see you. My question, how can I get to the roots of my anxiety? What questions could I ask about myself that I can help me discover what makes me so fearful? I'll read the question again. How can I get to the roots of my anxiety? What question could I ask about myself that could help me discover what makes me so fearful? Well, ultimately, the answer is the same for all of those questions. It's the idea that you hold on to a sense of self. Fear is just this feeling of me here, and we're trying to protect that. And the fear is when you feel in danger for some reason. Now, is it that you don't know at all what you're afraid of and it's just a general fear? Or are you looking for, say for instance, you're afraid of being afraid of conflict, and you're looking for the reason why you're afraid of conflict. What is it? Can you elaborate a little bit about what it is that you're looking for? So, I mean, like I said, I could just say, yeah, it's just because you have a sense of self. Get rid of the sense of self, and you won't feel fear. Because there's really, when you don't feel a centeredness, a sense of I am here, then there's no fear, because the fear is a distortion. But that's kind of like, yeah, that's you can just jump to that. But it's good to keep in mind that the reason you're feeling fear is because it's hitting something here, and that can help when you understand that you're part of the reason why you're feeling this. Now, there are other circumstances and situations that trigger those things, but people can be triggered for different things. My mother has schizophrenia, and when she was really bad, my father was still alive, and they had a caravan. No, a camper. Camper is the one that's the car and a house in it. Yeah, camper. So they were going to go to Germany with the camper, and my mother had so much anxiety. She couldn't do it. She just, no, I can't take it. It's too much. And my father was like, why? What's the problem? Well, what if we don't find a parking space? It's like, what do you mean? When we get to the ferry, like, no, in Germany. And it's like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, no, what if we can't find parking in Germany? What if there's no parking there? And this was her big fear, was that there would be no parking at all in Germany for campers. And for anyone, like, you can't really go in then and say logically, well, obviously my mom, like, this makes no sense. Of course there's parkings in Germany for campers. There's lots of German campers who come to Sweden and travel. They must park somewhere, and it's like a country like any other. So of course that, but it's not that you can find reason for that. A logical answer. And I think that's a mistake many do when they meet people with a lot of mental suffering, is that they try to logically break down, okay, you don't need to worry about this because you know what, look, here's a picture, they have parking spaces here. It doesn't matter. That's not the thing. The thing is that this self is so agitated and so unrattled in them that they don't function the way we function, in that we can say, okay, well, I see there's a parking here, okay, good, I can let go of that. But she can't do that. And a lot of people who feel, I mean, many of the mental disorders, they just have these, all of us have them, it's just that they kind of screw them up to the full point. Someone who has, say, anorexia, they like, I can have that, anyone can have, like, okay, I should lose a few kilos, right? Like, I have that a little bit turned up. I don't feel bad about it, but there's like a little bit there, like I can say, like, yeah, I could lose a few kilos. But for them, it just, like, it's just been turned up over and over and over, like beyond what is supposed to be turned, and that is out of balance. They can have paranoia. Everyone's paranoid to a certain degree. You hear something behind you, like, hey, a certain degree of paranoia can be good. But for people with mental illnesses, then you've kind of turned it up so much that it's just aggravated by everything. So that's why I was asking JVB that if he could elaborate a little bit on what it is that you're looking for, or what you think you're looking for, I might say. My personal belief is that we, as I said, we have a distortion, we have a pressure towards something. So my mother, she had a pressure towards this whole thing with there not being any parking spaces, but someone might have a pressure towards conflict, like, I can't take conflict. And then you go to a psychotherapist and they will dig around in your past and they say, when you were a kid, you had this one incident when your uncle came to your house and he was so angry at you because you had left your tricycle on his garden. And that's why you've had this fear for conflict, because he did that in front of your parents and your parents took his side. So now you're afraid of being abandoned. That is the reason why you have fear of conflict. And you go, whoa, I get it. That makes sense. That's obviously, and you can feel the hurt of that situation. You can put yourself in that, like, the same seat and remember how it hurts so much. Yes, that's why I'm so afraid of conflict and when I'm afraid of being abandoned. Oh, I can let go of that now because I know the reason. So you've just given yourself an excuse, or a good enough excuse to stop distorting. And for some people, that's psychotherapy. For some people, that's hypnosis. For some people, that's that they need to go and do an energy healing. For others, it's acupuncture, it's sharing circle. It's you can just watch this distortion directly and see that you're making it let go of it. But for most people, you need a reason as to why you're allowed to feel good, why you're allowed to just be okay. Because we have all these things that stacked up to make it so difficult to be okay and just be happy. And we kind of feel that we're not allowed to just feel good. So we need a reason for that. And that's where therapy comes in, gives you an excuse. I mean, I'm not saying this to sound harsh or to criticize people for doing this. I'm just saying how the mind works. Kind of, we need some way around this block that we have, that I'm not allowed to feel happy. I'm not allowed to be feeling good while I'm having a conflict. And you have all these reasons. Let's see. JVB, that's the trick. I don't know what I'm afraid of. I randomly get bursts of high anxiety out of nowhere, and I feel like my body is trying to tell me something, but I don't know how to interpret. Okay, so that sounds a lot like general anxiety. That can be a symptom of many different things. That could be a symptom of burnout. That could be a symptom of burnout. I had very strong general anxiety. I would lie in bed when I had this lack of sleep, and I couldn't sleep for more than a few hours every day, and my mind just kind of broke down. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night and think the house was going to fall down. I would have fear, oh, what if the ceiling comes down, because there is like a little problem with our basement. Well, is it all going to fall down? And I heard sounds, oh, someone's breaking in. And I would get out and look at like I was so easily pushed on those triggers that are a common trim. If you hear something, yeah, it could be someone breaking in, but most people say, oh, you know what, that didn't sound like someone banging over and over on the door, and it's probably not a problem. But when you're either suffering from a burnout, from some kind of mental thing that's going on that you can't handle, then this get aggravated. Sleep deprivation is really bad for this stuff, which is why I said having the ability to sleep is a superpower. It really is. So if it's random, then it could be, like I said, some underlying thing. Do you feel that you're like exposing yourself to extreme stress, problems with sleeping? I mean, and it's such a wide question, JBB, that it's difficult to just say, oh, just do this. And I don't really believe that we're looking for, in your case, oh, you know what, you're actually afraid of vampires. I'm sorry. That's something someone actually said to me one time. But that you're afraid of, I don't know, burglars or whatever it is, or some bad energies. Don't make it more difficult than it is. There's something, your system is just on overdrive for some reason, very likely. And that's worth looking into. I would highly recommend, if you have the ability, to go to some kind of therapist or mental health coach, or someone that you can talk about, because if it's general anxiety, that can be really difficult to deal with, and it has a tendency to get worse. If I would say things to recommend, when I worked with kids who were home from school, the things we really looked at was, are they getting enough sleep? That's actually one of the first things we looked at with a kid who's misbehaving or having problems, is, are they getting enough sleep? Can they sleep? If they're not sleeping, what are they doing before they go to bed? Do they play a lot of computer games, watch a lot of TV, YouTube? Like, what are they doing that is causing them lack of sleep? Because that's one of the main things that they would have issues with. And then we try to fix that situation. And then we look at what are they eating? Are they eating okay? Like, what kind of food are they eating? Are they just drinking lots of energy drinks? I mean, that's not going to be helpful. In your case, I would look at, are you drinking a lot of coffee? I noticed that when I was really bad with my burnout, I couldn't drink, I drink yerba mate, which is kind of a stronger tea. Even just normal Earl Grey, which is one of my favorite teas, in the morning, I couldn't drink it. It just aggravated my nervous system so much. So you need to look at all the factors, kind of see it as a bucket that's kind of being pushed, overflowing. So you need to lower the water in there, and that comes from Stress, it comes from, it could be something in your house or where you're living that's causing you stress, some kind of like mold or whatever. And then you can look at your foods, you can look at your sleep, and all those factors together can bring down. But it's more difficult than just saying, yes, it's this thing here that's causing you that. So food, sleep, yeah, there's lots of other stuff as well you can look into, but those I would say are the main things to look at. I hope that helps. Andreas, did you discuss a lot with each other when you were at the monastery how to deal with worry, anxiety, difficult life situations? That depended on what center. When I was in Asia, no, because there was not much worry or anxiety or difficulty. I just traveled to meditation centers, and I came there. There was food, I ate, I slept, I pooped, and then I meditated. Everything else, like I wasn't allowed. You're not allowed to leave the centers and go out into town and like, oh, I'm gonna have a look. No, you're at the centers 24/7. There's no weekdays, weekends. There's no time off. It's always meditating. So there wasn't really a lot of that going on, and most of those centers were silent, so you didn't talk. There were some centers that were in between that I was at in Sri Lanka where you had conversations, but mostly like you would have discussions with lay people who came to the center sometimes and talk to them. I would talk to monks, but not about anxiety and worry. That would be more meditation things. We would discuss different stages, techniques, experiences, and thoughts and ideas on how to practice, and yeah, those kind of things. So life situations for monks, it's not really, I mean, if you've accepted that you are a monk, sometimes there was a lot of conflict. That's actually true for some monks they ran into. And then, yes, I've had conversations like that. I've had conflicts when I was a monk as well, but as I'm saying that, I actually know one monk and one nun who committed suicide when they were ordained. So it's not like we don't have issues, but the lifestyle is kind of made to not minimize that. And then you have other centers, like when I was in Plum Village, where it was much more open and it was much more about discussing when things were difficult and sharing and being open with your feelings. And I think they also let in people who were suffering more mentally to join the Sangha, because that was a way of healing, whereas in the Theravadan tradition, it's not really seen that way. I mean, even though you heal, it's more that you need to be mentally stable enough to actually do the meditation exercises, to be allowed to do them. Whereas in the Plum Village tradition, it was more, you could bring in people who were really ruined and had a hard time functioning, and they would get built up and get out of that by being there. So it's very different approaches. Jack, I've had met on my medical work few people with paranoid schizophrenia disease, and being so deep in madness, they make so much sense sometimes. It scared me deeply. Let me see, paranoid schizophrenia and being so deep in madness, they made so much sense sometimes. It scared me. Yeah, I mean, the mind works differently when they're in that, but I think that the main problem is that they lose their connection to just being. My mother thought I was Jesus, and like I had come to save the planet, and she had all these things that kind of, when it went over the top, and you have to separate from when someone who has schizophrenia is in a psychosis and when they're just functioning somewhat normally. That is like very, very different things. Someone who has schizophrenia is not in a psychosis 24/7. That's not how it works. So they have ups and downs, and there can be traits of manic depression also in that, their behavior. So yeah, if you would meet someone who has a psychosis, they usually don't sound like they make a lot of sense. They're very, very scared and have a really hard time most of the time to function. It's a sad thing to see. Let's see, vampires. Yes, vampires was, it was one, I almost said boy, he was probably 25, who was having he had a psychosis when I spoke to him, and can't remember exactly what it was he suffered from right now, but we were walking, and I remember walking with him, and he was so scared of everything. And we would be walking, and then he'd talk about things, and he said, yeah, I'm scared of vampires, of death, and all these spirits are going to come and get me, and war, and crime, and then all of a sudden he just rolled into a ball on the ground and just like hugged himself kind of in the fetus position, and just, yeah, when someone is bad, it's difficult to understand how bad it can get. And your role, if someone is in that state, is not to solve their problems as in coming up with a solution. It's just to be there and just help them through it. And then when they're feeling better, then you can start working with it. But like in that state, it's not really when you would start doing psychotherapy or anything. Thank you for tonight, says Jack. Have a very pleasant evening and see you soon. Oh yes, it's 9 o'clock. So what I'm going to do now, let me do this. Give me 1 second. And there. If you look on my channel now, there's actually I just put that video live. I thought normally I release them. I had a schedule for this weekend, but I thought it'd be more fun since we've spoken about it to release it now, so you'll be the first ones to see. If you want to look, at least you can look. It talks about what I mentioned before about helping and how that can create ego. And yeah, if you find it interesting, leave a comment. It's always nice to have comments on the videos. It helps YouTube also see that, hey, someone likes what they're seeing. So thank you, everyone. Really nice evening. I wish you all a great evening, day, whatever time it is where you are. And I'll see you again on Monday. Thank you. Bye.